is London.
This is BBC Radio London.
And I'm joined live in the studio by Helena Thompson from the youth charity SPID, which stands for Social Political Innovative Direct. It's a theatre company, and they run community art projects on council estates. They've worked very heavily with the community in and around Grenfell since the fire. Helena, welcome. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks, Vanessa.
And do tell us what you've been doing. What are the sorts of projects that you've instigated around Grenfell?
We've got a project called Kensington Stories, which is about dramatising the history of North Kensington council estates, including Grenfell. Young people talk to local residents about their experiences in order to create a film, a radio play and a theatre show. It's open to anyone aged 13 to 25, it's free, it's popular, it's important, it starts back on January the 6th, and if anyone wants to get involved, they can sign up on youth@spidtheatre.com.
When you say the history of local council estates, what do you mean by that? What is the history? Because I think some people will just not really know what the story is that you'll be telling.
We believe that council estates are really important, especially because they were designed with community in mind. So we focus on what community means in these historic buildings. A lot of them are listed, places like Kensal House, where we're based around the corner from Grenfell, Trellick Tower, and obviously the heritage and the history of Grenfell is now coming to the fore. It's really a chance for residents, the people who live there, to share their experiences and be listened to, because so many of them feel that they've been ignored.
And when you do listen to them, what are the sorts of stories they tell you? Because people might imagine it was, I came from X and now I live in Y and that's it. What is there to say about it?
We've just finished making a film, and the film could soon be seen on www.spidtheatre.com. It looks at some of the causes and the grievances at the heart of Grenfell, and so obviously there's a lot of pain and anger. But what comes across predominantly in these stories is love. If you walk around Lancaster West and Grenfell Tower, the graffiti is very telling. You'll see these homemade logos everywhere. Justice for Grenfell, love Grenfell, Grenfell community, always with a big heart. Love is what survives. We have to listen to and learn from and remember that love. At SPID, we believe that love is political. Love is the answer to hate, and it's also a challenge to indifference. Love is what brings about change, and change is what's really needed.
All right, well, I'm going to have to stop you and ask you, when you say love is political, there will be lots of people listening who just think, what? What does she mean? Surely love is the one thing that transcends politics, that is more genuine than politics, that moves mountains. And how does she possibly think that love is political? How can you explain that?
Love instigates change. If people know what's happening, if they connect with each other, with these shared spaces, shared experiences in the shared space is what we mean by community, and it's a form of knowledge. You cannot persist ignoring people if you understand their stories. So we believe that sharing the stories of people on Grenfell and people on North Kensington Council Estates is a way to make sure they have a voice and to bring about positive change.
And you've been working with survivors, haven't you? Because you're right next to the tower. And what kind of emotional state do you find them in? Because some people might think, we hear a lot about people not being able to choose a home to move into because they just can't make that kind of decision because they're so overwrought, they're so distressed, they're so destabilised, they just can't make that kind of decision. So working creatively with you might think would be a bit too much for them, really.
It's been 6 months and people have something to say. They found their voice. Of course they need a place to live. Of course they need to be heard and understood. But really, they want their stories to be known and they want to engage with each other and with the wider public. So now is the time to share those stories and to understand why it is that the people who lived in and around Grenfell loved their homes and loved each other and loved their community and deserve to be recognised, protected and valued.
Give me an example of a story. You keep saying their stories. But for example, you don't have to give a name if you don't want to of a person, but give me an example of a story that's being told.
People have a lot of survivor stories, so they speak about how they ignored the advice that was given to them. They knew on some level that they mustn't stay in their flat, and they also knew that they must help those around them. So people often took chances. They went against the advice. They knocked on their neighbours' doors. Often they went up or down floors if they could to get as many people out. So many lives were saved that way just by community spirit.
Ah, that's what you mean by stories of what happened on the actual night itself, on the day.
Those stories are really important, and the catharsis and the healing power of sharing those stories. And really, it is what I mean about love, actually.
Because what an amazing thing it was when, you know, they were told very clearly, unequivocally, stay in your apartment. Now, to disobey authority under circumstances like that, when lives are at stake, is a big deal, isn't it? It's huge, because you think, if you're told to stay in your apartment, stay in it. You know, why would you not stay in it? On the other hand, they could see with their own eyes and hear with their own ears and smell what was going on all around them. I mean, the decisions that they took and that they made, you're quite right, every single one of those absolutely epic as a story.
I think that's right. One of the things I often say is that it wasn't the fridge or the cladding that killed people in Grenfell. It was being ignored. And
what do you mean by that? Why do you say that?
Well, so many of these criticisms of how the building was created, the way it failed health and safety checks, had been flagged for years before this big crisis. And what happened on the night was people had known deep down that something might happen, and they felt this connection to each other, and that was what they acted on. The community spirit built into the DNA of the architecture of the building kicked in. I think the reasons that the images of that burning tower went global is that they were, in a really old-fashioned sense, dramatic. So like Aristotle says, he talks about tragedy and he says, oh, it's got to be surprising but inevitable. These people had to burn alive in order to be noticed.
Oh, gosh.
And it's a moment where really now we're in Act 3 and we're saying, OK, the setup took years and this crisis was over in a night and a day. But now it's got to mean something. Some good must come. We can't let these people die in vain.
And so do you feel that the service today is a good thing and a worthwhile thing?
Certainly. The service today is about remembering and listening and learning.
And thank you very much indeed for coming in, Helena. It's very interesting to meet you. And if people want to see the production, Kensington Stories, what do they have to do if they want to hear it or participate?
youth@spidtheatre.com or spidtheatre.com.
All right, well, thank you very much indeed. Helena Thompson there of the youth charity SPID, who, as you hear, has been working very closely with survivors in the community. And thank you very much indeed. Good to see you here.